Oh man, check out these delicious ranch style beans. If you want to try something that's just absolutely off the hook good, oh, you just got to try this dish. It is fantastic. Well, hello. Welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode of Texas Cooking Today, we're going to be making a ranch style bean. Okay? Now, ranch style beans, what's also called charro beans. Charro is a Mexican word for cowboy beans. Ranchero beans is for ranch beans. It's all the same dish, okay? I want to show you how to make this dish perfect. How to prepare the beans so that you can soften the skin the right way and also make the bean taste wonderful. It's all in the cooking method, how it gets started, and the ingredients you use. And we're going to go over the most common ingredients used for this wonderful dish. So come over this way. We'll go over all these wonderful goodies that we have to cook with, and let's get busy making us some ranchero beans. Alright, now let's go over all of the ingredients that we have for this wonderful dish. First off, let's come right over here, is this bean. These are pinto beans, and this is the most commonly used bean for ranchero beans. And I really recommend, if you're doing this for the first time, to definitely use this. And if you're already accustomed to this dish, then this is the bean you're looking for. If you're looking to know which bean it is, it's that one right there, okay guys? Now, other things that we're going to be needing in this, we like to go in with some fresh vegetables. And that's of course some cilantro. I've got some jalapenos here, an onion, and some garlic. Now, if you're thinking that, wow, jalapeno, that's kind of hot, well, don't worry about it. We don't have a lot of jalapeno that we're going to use in this. I'm not using all of these. And we're going to be putting it into a pot that's going to be a large amount of liquid, so that's not going to really heat it up. But it is going to add a wonderful chili flavor to it that is a very important ingredient. Now, back here also, I have some pork. This is just some ham. Traditionally, this is done with ham or, shredded pork, like pork shoulder, sometimes with bacon or a ham hock. There is a lot of ways of introducing that wonderful pork flavor to this dish, so don't be afraid of experimenting with each one of them. Now, a lot of people just insist on using bacon, but it isn't an absolute, okay? I find just a good pork flavor is great, and I like this ham, so I'm going to chop it up nice and small and use it. Now, this ham's already cooked, so I don't have to really add it into the beans until a little bit later in the cooking process. That's a little different than most ranch beans that you see in most recipes you see where that pork is added early. And I'm going to show you some neat ways of doing this and the reason we're not going to add that. Also some salt. I have back here some cumin and paprika, and this is a little bit of lard. You can use some vegetable oil or shortening, whatever, to fry up the onion in, and the jalapenos also. I might put them in there also, and that's just going to help to bring out a little extra flavor from both of those for this dish. Now let's move right on to the first thing that we need to do, which is getting these things sifted through and ready to cook. Now, long before you can ever get into cooking any of these other ingredients, you have to soak off your beans. Now, there is a quick method of doing this where you parboil the bean and then cool it down, and that also helps to soften that skin as well. But the real trick in cooking beans is softening the skin, not so much in getting the meat on the inside plump and soft. It's getting that skin broken down so that you don't have all these skins that you're sifting through while you're eating. I don't always find them, but I would say easily 90% of the time I find beans or stones in my beans. As I was preparing to wash these, I decided to take another close look, and I unearthed, sure enough, there's a stone that was right in the very bottom of it. And what I did was just start pulling them away and looking in the bottom of this very meticulously. Just to double check, just to make sure. I didn't find them the first time, but sure enough, there was one in there. Like I said, about 90% of the time I find a stone in a bag of beans. And there it was. Now I have here some water. I'm just going to use it to quickly rinse these beans off. Now, let's go ahead and get some water in this. As I mentioned, I'm going to be using about 6 cups. And what I'm using here is just cold water. This is actually the pan I'm going to cook it in also. Some people like to soak beans separate from the pan they cook it in. But I'm going to tell you this. Make sure when you're making these beans that you cook these in the water that they soaked in, because that water has become very, very flavorful from the bean itself. This pre-soak is real important, for softening up that skin. That's the important part. Remember, like I said, the skin is the tough part to cook on this type of bean. So we have to get it taken care of first. There's a little bean skin I'm going to pull out. Now, how long do I need to give this? Some people give this overnight. I recommend giving it at least 4 hours. And so that's what I'm going to do here is we're just going to let it sit and have plenty of time. These beans have now been soaking for about 5 hours. Now, first thing you'll notice that the beans have already become substantially larger, much larger. And they're filling up the majority of that pot. A lot of that water is soaking in. So, that's exactly what we're looking for. They're in good condition. So what I want to do next is I'm going to start a low heat on this, and we're going to get these other vegetables ready to go down in this. This is going to be tasty. So what I want to do is to take some of these and reduce those to a nice fine dice. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of cut them open, and I'm going to remove these cores just like so. There we go. And I'm going to wash out those seeds here in just a moment. There we are. Very simple. Now those have been rinsed quickly. If you want next, let's go ahead and make some narrow strips. And what I'm looking for here is nothing as wide as, nothing that's going to be as wide as 1/4 of an inch. I'm looking for more like 1/8 of an inch cut. Now, remember when cutting on these things, keep those fingers rotated under. Grab a hold of the blade and grip the handle with your back fingers. And I just want to go ahead and do this to all of these. Now, what I want to do in order to cut these down into some small dice is I want to cut on either side of that root. Never cut that root end off. You want to cut the stem off first. Now I have 3 parts, and I want to be able to reduce these to dice really easy. I'm going to take my knife and make a cross cut through the bottom of that, and then another one a little higher up. So I basically have 3 parts there. And all I have to do is just make cuts. Like so. And then my cross cuts. Whoops, got a couple of pieces that are going rogue on me. There we go. My pan has been coming up in temperature now, and I can go ahead and put this down in here. Now if you don't want to use the lard, to go ahead and use like some vegetable oil. I wanted to do this more like it might be done in Mexico. That way we get that definitely south of the border flavor, as well as that Texas flavor going on, which is very common here as well. Go. This is where I want to start throwing the heat on this. So I'm going to reduce it down to about a medium high. Now, just bringing out flavor, a small amount of salt in this, doesn't take much, no more than maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon. There we go. The onions have not been in there long, but I start them first just to get the heat working up through them to soften them. So what I want to do, now that I have my beans to a good boil, I'm going to put all of that right down into them. Now what I want to do is go ahead and prepare my garlic, and I'm just going to cut off those scab ends, and I'm going to do nothing more than just gently give each of these a crush to break them open, and I'm going to toss them right down into my pot. Now if I like, I can go ahead and put in some of my spices, not the salt, remember. However, we had cumin out, and I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of that cumin. There we go. And I'm also going to put in the same amount of that paprika. And I'm going to give that a bit of a stir. We have now arrived at the 1 hour point. Actually, it's been about 55 minutes. And what I have going on here is a beautiful, beautiful pan of beans. Now, it's time for us to go ahead and put in that pork. And what I have here is about 1 cup of diced pork. In this case, it's ham. You could use bacon also, like I said. You might want to use about half as much when it comes to bacon. And that bacon can either be pre-cooked, or you can just cut it up into small pieces and put it in there raw, and it's going to cook up just fine in this. Well, our beans are about 1.5 hours in, and it is time for us to go ahead and take care of our cilantro and get it in there. Now I'm going to reset my timer. Go. And what I want to do is just a chop, and it doesn't have to be, you know, a real fine chiffonade or anything. This is the way I was cutting that. There we go. Now we can just take that and put it right over there in our pot. We'll stir that in. They're very good. They are a little bit flat. I'm going to add in about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Stir that in. Well, as you can see, this isn't a hard dish to do. It takes a little time, but it isn't difficult. And it's so rewarding. The flavors are just so strong and robust. This is something that you should try if you haven't yet. That extra sauce is perfect in it. Brings out the flavor of the beans, the ham. The spices don't jump at you. They're subtle. It's really the flavor of the bean that comes through the most. Nothing like Ranchero Beans, Charro Beans, Ranch Beans, Cowboy Beans, whatever you want to call them. Remember, they're just plain delicious. This is a great accompaniment to many of the dishes that you're going to see on Texas Cooking Today. And I would like to thank you very much. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. And to my subscribers, thank you very, very much. And you folks have a good day. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today, the show where you can get great recipes and the best techniques are taught. Please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today, where you will always find something hot and ready to eat.